Happy Thanksgiving week, friends. I am popping into your earbuds for a special bonus episode. Think of it as your holiday survival goodie bag, but instead of Tums and stretchy pants, I'm sharing my Black Friday shopping list with all of my favorite tools for lifestyle medicine. And yes, there are affiliate links, which means when you click, you help support the Healthy Looks Great on You podcast and my ongoing research about how many pieces of pie is too much. And don't worry, I'll report back. Healthy isn't just what you do, it's who you become. I'm Dr. Vickie, and this is Healthy Looks Great on You, a lifestyle medicine podcast to help you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your well-being. Life-tested, doctor-approved. All right, let's dive in for the Healthy Looks Great on You buyer guide. You can find links to all of the products I'm going to mention in the show notes for this episode. Also, I'm going to send it out to all of my email followers on Wednesday evening before Thanksgiving. You can also head over to my website, healthylooksgreatonyou.com, and you can find this episode with all the links at your fingertips, so you can just click and get your shopping done. Let's get started. And the first pillar we're going to talk about in lifestyle medicine is fitness. I mean, movement is medicine. And no, shopping online does not count as steps. But if you'd really like some help in your fitness journey, then I recommend a body pod. And listen, I totally have a love-hate relationship with this thing. It's kind of like a scale, and really it should replace your scale. But it's an impedance monitor. And so it will measure your bone density, how much cellular water you have, and how metabolically active your cells are. And then it gives you this diagram that shows a percentage of body fat and the number of pounds of body fat, as well as the percent muscle mass and the pounds you have in muscle. And here's where this has helped. In my journey to lose belly fat, my weight really didn't change much. I was working out and I was eating right, and the scales just stayed the same. But with the body pod, I could see that I was gaining muscle mass and losing fat. And so, like I said, I have a love-hate relationship, but I highly recommend this. And it's a little bit expensive, but I think it's totally worth it for the feedback that it gives you, the accountability that it gives you, and motivation, honestly. It helps me. Next on the list is kind of just on my wish list. This is a walking pad, and I spend some time sitting at my desk, as a lot of people do, and not walking is now considered a high-risk behavior. You should be walking at least an hour a day. And, it's getting to be winter, and it's kind of hard to get outside and walk an hour a day. But if you have a pad under your desk and you can just walk all day long while you're working at your desk, you would put in some serious miles. The next thing on my list is a rowing machine. I think a rowing machine is a great way to get a total body workout. You're working your upper body, but you're also working your lower body and getting that cardio in. So if you've got room for it, I think a rowing machine is a great idea. I live near a gym, and there's a rowing machine there, so I don't really want one of these in my house, but I do like having access to it. And they say, go big or go home. So if you want to go big, get a Peloton. And they are expensive, but literally everyone that I know who has one says it's totally worth it. It is fun. It gives you variety. It gives you coaching. And it's just right there in your house. And so a Peloton is a great way to really up your fitness. Okay, let's move on to the second pillar. Today we're going to talk about nutrition. And the first thing I'm going to give you is the cookbook that I use the most, and that's the Blue Zones cookbook. If you're not familiar with the Blue Zones, these are areas in the world where more people live, typically to be over 100 years old. And there are several regions in the world, and these are divided up in the cookbook. So what I did is, a couple of weeks ago, we only ate recipes from Sardinia, Italy. And so it's kind of fun to use it that way. I don't love all the recipes in this cookbook. I tweak them so that I do, but there are some fantastic recipes in this cookbook, and it just teaches you how to eat for longevity. So I recommend this book. The other one that's been life-changing for me is any of Dr. Michael Greger's books, How Not to Die Cookbook, and How Not to Age. And I'll tell you, He does use some itty-bitty tiny studies sometimes to make a point, but overall the principles are good. And it really changed my life. This is the book that my doctor recommended that I read that reversed my diabetes. And so that's a good one to have on your shelf. And speaking of diabetes, I've also got a cookbook to reverse diabetes on there. Not everyone can reverse diabetes, but some people can with their diet, and everyone can improve their blood sugar levels with their diet. And also, I talk a lot about cognitive health and brain health. And so I put a cookbook on there that gives you recipes that follow the MIND diet. That's MIND. And that's sort of a marriage between the DASH diet, which is for high blood pressure, and the Mediterranean diet. And there are some studies that show that that protects cognitive health, and lifestyle interventions can even reverse early cognitive impairment. So it's worth having these on your shelf. Next up is the Ninja Blender. If you don't have a Ninja Blender, I want you to go order one, because how else are you going to make great smoothies? And I'll tell you how I got mine. I was at my daughter's and she was using it, and I was like, wow, this thing is incredible. Why do I not have one? And I got on Amazon right that minute, ordered it, and the package beat me back home to my house, and I use it every week for food processing as well as my smoothies. Another thing that I use very frequently is an Instant Pot. And here's where it helps me. You know, I advocate eating a lot of beans. They've got protein, they've got fiber, they're yummy, and you can put them in some things and you can't even taste them. But you have to plan in advance. If you're going to use dry beans, you have to soak them overnight, and it's a big process. But if you have an Instant Pot, you can just throw those in there and have beans on the spot. And I don't cook with a lot of meat, but I do keep frozen chicken in the freezer. And you can cook frozen chicken as quickly as you can thawed chicken, and it maintains its moisture in the Instant Pot. So I recommend that you get an Instant Pot. The next thing on my list is my favorite kitchen gadget. This one is super cheap. It's just a little scooper, but it can transfer your chopped vegetables from your cutting board to your skillet on the stove without spilling any pieces for the dog to pick up, or without trying to balance them on the blade of a knife. And speaking of knives and cutting boards, I have those on there as well. I could have put that under stress relief, because is there anything more stress relieving than chopping vegetables? I love it. That's one of the reasons that I love to cook. So you can check those out. So let's move on to the pillar of sleep. You know, this one is near and dear to my heart. And I've got a white noise machine on there. But most importantly, I have my favorite sleep mask. And I have two of these. I keep one in my travel bag. I never go anywhere without it. And I wear it every single night. It's comfortable, it's soft and silky, it has a loose elastic strap, and literally I think everyone should be wearing a sleep mask when they sleep. It improves your sleep, and there are some new studies that show that even a little bit of light in your bedroom increases your risk for cardiovascular disease. So check out my favorite sleep mask. And I added some lavender scented lotion for fun, and warm socks. You sleep better if your feet are warm as you're going to sleep. So I put some warm socks on there. I put UGG, because nothing is softer and better than UGG socks. For my menopausal and perimenopausal friends, I put some cooling sheets on there, because your feet are plenty warm and with the rest of your body. Let's move on to the social connection pillar. And I put at the top of the list a Mahjong set. And when I was practicing gynecology, the sharpest little old lady patients that I had in my practice were bridge players. And Mahjong is kind of the new bridge. And so you have to have tiles, you have to have a mat. And so I put that in there. I also put pickleball rackets in there, because that's a great way to combine fitness and social connection. So grab a racket, grab a friend, and go play some pickleball. I included some of my favorite games. Code Names is a good game to play if you have a group of people. Cribbage is a great two-person game. And we have a travel set that we put in our backpack. And that way, if we get stranded at an airport, or if we're on vacation, we just don't have anything to do in the evening, it's very relaxing to sit down and play cribbage. This is a game that was invented on British naval ships a long, long time ago. And my husband's been playing since he was a little boy. He played with his dad, and he can beat me hands down every time, but it's still a lot of fun. And my new favorite card game is Monopoly Deal. This is something I just discovered this weekend. It's very intriguing. It's called Tales, Tales. And these are conversation starters. And you can get the grandparent edition and you can sit down with your older relatives and ask them questions about when they were young and when they were midlife and what's important to them now. And it's a great way to learn some things and to connect on a deeper level. And I can promise you, your grandparents will enjoy this one a lot. I included some books on social connection as well. Jenny Allen wrote Find Your People. And this is about how to find friends. But Amberly Neese wrote a little book called The Friendship Initiative. And this is how to be a good friend to your sisters in Christ. So I recommend both of those. And I interviewed Amberly on the podcast. So in the show notes, I'll put a link to that so that you can check it out. And speaking of people I've interviewed, let's move on to the pillar of stress management. Barb Roos was on my podcast as well, and she wrote a book called Stronger Than Stress. And so that's in the show notes for you to check out as well. And I put adult fidget spinners and coloring books on there, as well as a prayer journal. Crafts and art can really relieve stress, and music too. So anything you can do to relieve stress is super important. I also put a yoga mat on there. I could have put that in fitness, and it can go in both places, but yoga is definitely a stress reliever. And the final pillar of lifestyle medicine that I want to talk about is minimizing harmful substances. And one of the most powerful books I've ever read about the role of dopamine and addiction is called Dopamine Nation. It's by Dr. Anna Lemke. She's a New York Times bestselling author, psychiatrist at Stanford University, and I had the great honor and privilege of interviewing her on the podcast. So there's a link to her book and a link to the podcast in the show notes, and the book also comes with a workbook. And if you're a fellow believer and you want to do a recovery program, then I highly recommend Celebrate Recovery. It's for people with addictions, if you have smoking, drugs, alcohol, pornography, or whatever, but it's also for anyone who has hurts, habits, and hangups. And hey, listen, that is all of us. I've done all 8 books in Celebrate Recovery, and it was life-changing. Highly recommend. All right, friends, that is the official Dr. Vickie Healthy Looks Great on You Black Friday shopping list. I'll be sending this out to all of my email followers on Wednesday afternoon before Thanksgiving. That way you can just click a button. You can find the links to all of these items in the show notes, plus a few more, or you can go to my website, healthylooksgreatonyou.com. You can sign up there to get emails, or you can just check out this episode and find all those links to support you in your health journey. And feel free to share this episode with any friends who need a little guidance and a little retail therapy. And don't forget, your regular Friday episode is coming out this week, and I am so grateful for you. I'm grateful for this community, and I'm grateful that we get to do this health journey together. Happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you on Friday. The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.